There are, as I say, lots of stories in the news that are of great concern to me, and I'm sure they are to you as well. One of which has been, we've been waiting to find out what is the going to be the fallout from the Vatican financial trials. You might recall there's been tremendous scandal involved in money being sent to Rome from donors across the world, and it being used in part to, say, finance the movie about the pop singer. What's his name? I forget his name. The gay biopic story there. Like, I forget what that name is, like The Rocket King or something, whatever that movie was about. Like, why did we spend money on that? And then, of course, there was the apartment flat or the condo flat deal in London that also didn't go well. We lost a ton of money there. And so there's been an ongoing financial...
Elton John.
Thank you, Elton John.
I was like, I can't remember either.
It took you a minute or two. I mean, you probably have all of his hits anyway, Rudy, so it's
true.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, lots of financial scandals over the years. And then, of course, in 2020, there was a further scandal. Cardinal Becciu was accused of sending money to Australia, and some would say was used to work against the trial of Cardinal Pell, which he ended up in solitary confinement for what? It was a year and a half or 2 years or something before he was finally released, and his case was overthrown by the Australian Supreme Court.
Yeah, I believe it was about a year or so.
Yeah, at least.
And we were just waiting to see what would come out of it. So
lots of mystery surrounding Cardinal Becciu. Well, His Holiness Pope Francis removed him from all of his cardinal duties in 2020. Didn't remove the title, although I did for a time think that he did, but I was corrected, and he is still a cardinal. Well, there is reports out now that he's being reinstated. The trial isn't even over, and he's already being reinstated? Like, what does this mean? Well, there's an article out of the National Catholic Register. It says, Cardinal Becciu reinstated by Pope Francis? Let me read to you this real quick, this article. It says, Cardinal Angelo Becciu, the former prefect of the Congregation for the Causes of Saints who resigned from all positions in the context of an alleged financial scandal, has said he will participate in the next consistory, August the 29th through the 30th. He said he will also participate in the consistory for creating new cardinals on August the 27th. Cardinal Becciu announced the news during a private mass celebrated in Golfo Aranci in his native Sardinia, where he is spending a holiday. I mean, if he has no duties, isn't every day a holiday? Just curious how that works.
True.
If true, the decision appears to have come directly from Pope Francis. Since the Pope's decision to remove Cardinal Becciu from the office was personal, it is likely that the invitation to the Italian cardinal to participate in the upcoming consistory can also be considered a personal decision to the pontiff, or of the pontiff, rather. In other words, there might not be any formalization of reinstatement, merely a brief confirmation that Francis did invite the 74-year-old from the Holy See. The resignation of Cardinal Becciu from all his Vatican offices and the renunciation of the cardinalate prerogatives was announced on September the 24th, 2020 in a sparse communication from the Holy See press office published late in the evening. Subsequently, Cardinal Becciu made it known that the Pope told him in an audience that same evening that he no longer trusted him and that there were accusations of embezzlement against him. The allegations were then officially made in the so-called Vatican, quote, trial of the century, close quote, which sees Cardinal Becciu among the 10 defendants. Cardinal Becciu is charged with embezzlement, money laundering, fraud, extortion, and abuse of office. The trial focuses on the purchase of a luxury property in London by the Secretary of State. Cardinal Becciu also faces charges for allocating money from the Secretary of State to Caritas in his native region. If I'm not mistaken, there was also a situation where he was being accused of laundering money to his brother and a construction company back in the home country, too.
That sounds like a movie, Joe.
Yeah, well, most things do these days. So at any rate, the article just basically states that it's not clear at this point whether or not the cardinal is going to be fully rehabilitated or simply as a courtesy, a gesture of courtesy by His Holiness Pope Francis to say, hey, the guys are getting together, okay? All the red hats are going to be gathering up in Rome for a new consistory. Why don't you come hang out?
It just wouldn't be the same without you, bro.
Yeah, it's like,
I know we had our differences, but
yeah. You know what I found interesting was before he relieved him of all his duties, the Pope went and celebrated Mass at his private residence. So they got together for dinner. The Pope celebrated Mass at his residence and then removed him of all his cardinal duties. That seems weird.
I don't know. Maybe it's
is that a merciful thing?
Yeah, maybe it's just I don't know. Were they friends before? I'm not sure. That kind of stuff doesn't.
I don't know.
Get reported very often.
I remember mentioning it when it first came out, and I'm like, that seems strange to me.
I don't know. It seems cordial.
Does it?
Seems cordial to me.
You know, when you get fired, your boss comes over, hangs out for dinner, and then fires you. Like that's a thing?
You wouldn't have a meal with me before you fired me?
No.
Really?
Absolutely not.
Oh man.
No.
Well, that's
Milstination the whole way.
Okay. I see how things are now.
At any rate, so I guess we're going to have to see how this progresses. But as of right now, it's not a full reinstatement. But could this be the sort of the seed for coming back and getting the band back together? I don't know. We'll have to see. I'll have to see how it goes. There's another story that I think is of grave concern too. And this one for the repose of the soul of Archbishop Weakland, who died yesterday at the age of 95. Now, you may or you may not remember or know that Archbishop Weakland was the bishop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But in 2002, when he retired or was replaced, Dolan took over. Dolan was in St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken, and came in to take over. Dolan is from Wisconsin, so he had family there and whatnot. There was a grave scandal in the archdiocese at the time because it came out that Weakland was an active homosexual and was covering up relations he was having with a seminarian to the tune of, I think, millions of dollars. And it shook the diocese. And Dolan was expected to clean that up until, of course, he was moved to New York and made a cardinal. Here's a little bit of this article. It says Archbishop Rembert Weakland, a Benedictine who served as Archbishop in Milwaukee from 1977 to 2002, died overnight on Monday. Weakland died after a long illness the night of August the 21st through the 22nd at Clement Manor in Greenfield, a Milwaukee suburb. The Archbishop was a progressive who had advocated for the priestly ordination of women. His resignation as Milwaukee's Archbishop came after revelations that the Archdiocese had paid $450,000 to a Paul Marceau, an adult male seminarian with whom he had sexual relations. Now, a minute ago, I said millions. Maybe I'm wrong about that number. This article from the CNA says $450,000, but I thought I remembered earlier reports to the tune of millions, but I could be definitely wrong about that. The article goes on to say Archbishop Jerome Listecki of Milwaukee commented on August the 22nd that, quote, for a quarter of a century, Archbishop Weakland led the Archdiocese of Milwaukee, and his leadership embodied his Benedictine spirit. His pastoral letter, Eucharist Without Walls, evoked his love for the Eucharist and its call to service. During his time, he emphasized an openness to the implementation of the teachings of the Second Vatican Council, including the role of lay men and women in the Church in celebration of the sacred liturgy, ecumenical dialogue, and addressing societal issues, especially economic justice. May he now rest in peace, close quote. Archbishop Listecki from Milwaukee. Well, Weakland was born in 1927 in Pennsylvania, attended the minor seminary run by St. Vincent Arch Abbey in Latrobe. He was professed as a member of the Order of the St. Benedict at the Abbey in 1946 and took solemn vows in 49, ordained a priest in 51. But did you know that Archbishop Weakland was a music scholar? Yeah, he's also got a very interesting connection to the Novus Ordo Mass. Maybe you did not know this either, but he was made a consultor to the Concilium, the committee that inspired the interpreted Sacro Sanctum Concilium, and that was responsible for preparing the revised order of the Mass, or what we now call the Novus Ordo, following the Second Vatican Council. In 1964, he was made a member of the Concilium in 68. In 67, he was appointed abbot primate of the Order of St. Benedict. He was appointed Archbishop of Milwaukee in 77, consecrated a bishop that year. He served there until his retirement at the age of 75 in 2002. So he was allowed to retire in spite of the controversy. His own sexual abuse and his poor handling of abuse by other priests led to the renaming in 2019 of the Weakland Center, which holds the offices of the Cathedral of St. John the Evangelist. Weakland said he began having homosexual relationships after his episcopal consecration, and he dissented from the church's teaching on the immorality of sodomy. Again, he was allowed to retire, even though there was grave controversy. He came out publicly admitting after his retirement that he was an open homosexual. He embraced that. I mean, I guess you could say he predated the German Synod by decades.
You know, yeah, I hate to say this, but there were a lot of prelates who held this opinion in private, even before the Second Vatican Council.
Yeah.
So something happened.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We were talking to a friend who was doing some research, speaking of Wisconsin. She was doing some research in some archives up there and at a shrine, and she saw a bunch of controversy in the correspondence from the 1950s about modernism and controversy about priests not saying Mass well and embracing sort of these new crazy ideas and espousing them in homilies. So, you know, it wasn't new. I mean, ever since the fall of man, we've had controversy and breakdown. But I think it's especially scandalous when an archbishop is allowed to keep his position, even though he's accused of these grave scandals, which he admitted to and was guilty of, and paid out hundreds of thousands of donor dollars to cover up, and then embraced, you know, all kinds of heresy. And I guess he just gets to go off into the sunset like that. And there was no disciplinary action from the Holy See on the issue. I mean, it's a grave scandal. 2002, we're talking JP2. You know, why didn't Benedict XVI lay the hammer on this? I mean, it just seems very strange to me as a result to all of this. But nonetheless, we must pray for the repose of Weakland's soul. We pray that he died in a state of grace, repentant, and all the rest, but we do not know. So let us pray for him today.